Yes, this is Desiree Dubonnet. You are what you eat, but you also are what you absorb. So we developed the fossil lab process, and today the rules of the stomach. It's very, very important after you've chosen your food and after you've chewed it. As you're chewing the food, messages are being sent, neural messages sent to the stomach to prepare for digestion based on what you're chewing. So it's very important that we chew. As we chew, we are starting to set the process of digestion. The stomach will do a different thing for everything that you eat. It has to know what you're eating. That triggers from the nerves under the tongue. We will cover more in depth about how long the food stays in the stomach a little later in this video. So just be patient. But now let's get back to the stomach and to what happens after we chew it and comes through the esophagus. So now that the food is properly chewed, it passes through the esophagus, through the cardia valve, into the stomach, the part of the stomach called the fundus at the top. The cardia valve is a one-way valve that's supposed to hold this down. When we have hiatal hernia and other things, gastric reflux, the cardia valve can be open, and that creates heartburn when the acid fumes come up into the esophagus and create what we call heartburn, and it's the cardia valve because this is very close to the heart. Now, inside the stomach is the release of the hydrochloric acid. The hydrochloric acid will now combine with the food to kill the bacteria and to start to break up the food into smaller and smaller particles. This is the major part of the stomach process, and this is a part of digestion that most people overlook. They get too rushed and they overburden the stomach, and it creates a problem. So here we've made some rules for you, rules for the stomach. So here's the first rule. Do not put very, very hot drinks or food into your mouth. They're carcinogenic. They can weaken the esophagus and the stomach. Now, the Chinese made their cups very thin without handles. If you can't hold it with your fingers, you don't want to drink it. The stomach lining is not much different than the hand, than the skin on the hand. But in America, we decided we wanted to have insulated cups with handles. When you drink very, very hot liquids, it can create celiac sprue. It can take the normal gut with the villi, smooth them out, and create a real problem for digestion. This is called a celiac disease. Now also, celiac disease can be complicated and caused or irritated by gluten. You need to stay away from gluten. There's no reason to eat gluten in a world that has so much gluten-free foods. And here's what happens when you get celiac disease. It can create a host of different problems. Now let's look at more about the rules of the stomach. Fluids alone, not too much fluid. Make sure you don't drink. You don't want to dilute the acid. No coffee at meals. Wait 2 hours after. No milk with meals. Make sure that you don't do milk. That will neutralize the acid. Fruits alone. Melons alone. Okay? Make sure that you're getting the stomach to work properly. Small meals are better. Slow meals. Savor. Enjoy. Chew, 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 of course. Eat for nutrition, not stimulation. Rest comfortably, because that food's going to be in the stomach for quite some time after you've eaten. So make sure that you're resting and the stomach gets a chance to work with the parasympathetic nervous system. Make and eat foods with love and kindness, no violent, bad emotions. Do not use antacids to stop the digestion. And don't sleep for 3 or more hours after eating until at least wise that your body and the food has passed through the stomach. As the food is in the stomach and the acid is doing its job, breaking up the food particles, if the stomach does not do its job, large undigested fats and large undigested proteins will pass into the small intestine. Some of them will not be properly digested, not be properly broken up by the enzymatic functions. Those will get into the body and produce bad cells and make you fat. Now, the stomach will do this type of an action, this peristaltic action, about 3 times a minute to help stir the food up to make sure that we're not getting any putrefaction. As the acid is doing its job, slowly the acid becomes less and less acidic and more neutral at a certain time, then the pyloric valve will be able to open and allow the processed food to go into the small intestine. The pyloric valve is at the top of the small intestine. This will help to trigger the liver and trigger the pancreas to do their enzymes, and then the stomach will return to its position. The empty stomach is about the size of your fist. The full stomach is about the size of your head. That gives you an idea. Now, we've written up these whole basic ideas of the fossil lab, and now we're going to be concentrating on the stomach, of course. We want to make sure we're not eating too much alcohol with a meal, fluids alone, fruits alone, melons alone, making sure that we chew properly to get all the foods properly attained, and thereby getting the foods ready for the next part of digestion, which will be the small intestine. We'll talk about the small intestine and the other factors in a later interview. Today we've been talking about the rules of the stomach and why it's very important that you obey the rules of the stomach so that the food will be properly processed for the small and large intestine to maximize your nutrition. As we taste and as we chew, the sublingual nerves under the tongue will tell the stomach how to prepare. Okay? Water would just take no time at all. Very, 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 very little. Fruits and vegetables, 15, 20 minutes. Juice, even less. Cooked vegetables, these will take 30, 40 minutes. If they're prepared with heavy oil, maybe a little longer. Potatoes, all the different tubers, they could take an hour and a half to 2 hours to be in the stomach, to be properly digested, ready for. Fish, 45 minutes, 60 minutes. That's all it will take. Chicken, an hour and a half to 2 hours to be properly prepared by the stomach for the small intestine. And beef, 2 hours. Sometimes a meal might even take 3 or 4 hours if it's very, very large and if you have taken an awful lot of liquid. So now we have an idea of the rules of the stomach and how to make ourselves a little more healthy. This is Desiree signing off.